It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. Before I do that, I'd like to first extend our gratitude to USGIF for organizing this remarkable event here in St. Louis. This year's theme resonates deeply with the critical role geospatial intelligence plays in our complex global landscape. And USGIF's tireless efforts in fostering collaboration across government, industry, international partners, and academia have been instrumental in creating this ecosystem that continues to strengthen our nation. Now it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Vice Admiral Frank Trey Whitworth, the 8th Director of the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency. Admiral Whitworth's career is a testament to exceptional operational and strategic leadership. His previous roles include Director of Intelligence for the Joint Staff at the Pentagon, Director of Intelligence at US AFRICOM, and Commander of CENTCOM's Joint Intelligence Center. His distinguished service spans maritime operations, special operations, and targeting, including leadership positions with the 5th Fleet in Bahrain, JSOC, and the Special Naval Warfare Development Group. Today, Admiral Whitworth leads an organization of over 16,000 professionals across 200 locations. Under his visionary leadership, NGA is at the forefront of integrating AI and machine learning into geospatial intelligence. In fact, Admiral has declared 2025 the year of AI, underscoring NGA's commitment to leveraging cutting-edge technology for mission-critical operations. Admiral Whitworth's focus on innovation is enabling analysts to discover, integrate, and leverage GEOINT data at unprecedented speeds, meeting the critical needs of warfighters and first responders. And his transformative approach has earned recognition across the community for its impact on our nation's most critical missions. We are truly grateful for his service, leadership, and all he has accomplished throughout his career for our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Vice Admiral Frank Whitworth.
Good morning, St. Louis. That was such a nice introduction. Thank you, Yvette. I'll cite AWS as a reference in a few minutes. And I want to thank in advance Sue Gordon for leading our discussion in a few. From one Duke Blue Devil to another, I speak on behalf of all GeoInters in thanking Sue for your continued advocacy of our tradecraft. Thanks also to the Director of National Intelligence, Gabbard, for taking the time to come out to St. Louis this week to address the geospatial community and to visit NGA's new campus in North St. Louis on Monday. We continue to think and pray for all people affected by last Friday's tornado. Our new building, less than a mile from that tornado's path, can be emblematic of this city's perseverance and resilience, standing tall as America's newest intelligence center here in the heartland. I so look forward to our opening this new nerve center on September 26th. Thanks to everyone at USGIF for all they do for the community year-round and for assembling yet another world-class GEOINT Symposium. Thanks to the Chief of Space Operations and our teammate, General Saltzman, for being here today. NGA and the United States Space Force are aligned and committed to our roles across Title 10 and Title 50. We collaborated for months to establish a new Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA for short, and we just signed it today, which accelerates the relationship we already have and leverages GEOINT functional management to take the TAC SRT to the next levels of speed, scale, and trust. That MOA is more than a step in the right direction, it is foundational. NGA also appreciates Space Forces joining us in a synchronized approach to commercial GEOINT by partnering with us on our all-of-government approach to tackling our most difficult challenges in a cost-effective way. The bottom line here is this: the space domain is vast and critical to our nation's security. NGA and Space Force have the right people with the right skills working together to tackle current and emergent requirements. Space is not a new mission for NGA. Look to the 1960s, for instance. Everyone knows the efforts of NASA engineers and astronauts during the Apollo missions. Their feats are legendary. But as for charting the surface of the moon, it was two of NGA's predecessors, the Aeronautical Chart and Information Center right here in St. Louis, and the Army Map Service, who drove a massive cartographic effort to map the lunar surface. It was those efforts that led to determining lunar orbits, planning lunar landing sites, and ultimately the first manned lunar landing in 1969. Bottom line again, NGA has the experience, expertise, and innovative spirit to help keep the United States of America on top of the space domain. Today, I will address three topics. First, highlight some of NGA's accomplishments since we last met. Second, highlight this year as the year of AI for NGA. And third, address the future of NGA and GEOINT and how the GEOINT community can help build a secure tomorrow together. So let's begin with a review of NGA's accomplishments since the last symposium. NGA's raw and finished intelligence and GEOINT writ large have been at the forefront of intelligence on crises and national security challenges around the globe. Throughout this last year, the quality of our work has been extraordinary and in high demand. The timeliness and relevance of our products, with cabinet-level readership, continued climbing this year, sustaining a nearly 8-fold increase in key publication rates over the 3 years I've been director, as the world continues to bring new, compelling material. From the Middle East to the Korean Peninsula, from the Black Sea to the southern border of the United States, and from hurricane, flood, tornado, and wildfire-ravaged areas of the U.S. to the South China Sea, the expertise and commitment of NGA's GEOINT professionals have been mainstays for warfighters, policymakers, and first responders. The volume of GEOINT reporting, compared to reporting from all other disciplines in intelligence, in fulfilling consumer needs is way more than most people would ever expect. In fact, it's even more than most GEOINTers think it is. Let me give you a few commercial statistics provided by AWS, and these are unclassified. NGA stores more than 290 petabytes in the AWS cloud. Comparatively, that's more data than all other intelligence agencies, combat support agencies, etc. Our expertise in compression and use of Glacier makes us the most storage-optimized agency in the IC. In AWS classified regions, we are also the largest user of the latest generation of NVIDIA H100 GPUs. Simply put, NGA is in the top 1% of AWS storage users, period. That data and exploitation are meaningless unless they address the right collection at the right time. There is a symbiotic relationship between our analysts and our collectors as we work 24/7 on ensuring a predictive and time-sensitive approach to collection, a process we call informed collection orchestration. Choreographing an increasingly complex and capable constellation of space-based GEOINT assets. The process is central to ensuring our warfighters, decision-makers, and intelligence professionals receive the GEOINT advantage we all demand, at location, on time, and accurately. While we received glowing marks via the Undersecretary of Defense, INS staff from the combatant commands regarding our commercial and national collection satisfaction rates, we also let the data do the talking, assessing our collection rates daily and our adherence to the nation's priorities and warfighting readiness. At our core, warning, targeting, and safety are what we do. But how we do it is equally important. We do it with objectivity and efficiency. In today's world, both are essential. Every morning I have the privilege to witness our analysts and collectors' expertise as we review overnight developments. I will assure you, we call them like we see them. Like the umpires just down the street at Busch Stadium, we call balls and strikes pure objectivity. We also do it with efficiency. Yes, we are among the smaller agencies. With no hesitation, though, I can say that pound for pound, dollar for dollar, NGA and the GEOINT enterprise, by extension, punches way above our weight. On a near daily basis, we hear from our consumers that we are in the game, every day in every hotspot. And I hope you can sense the pride I have in our team. Allow me to give you a few examples. When it comes to the U.S. Indo-PACOM area of operations, China is our most consequential opponent in strategic competition. NGA plays a key role in monitoring Chinese activity across the globe, including the Taiwan Strait, as well as illicit and illegal activities undertaken by China all over the planet. China's and Russia's space activities have become increasingly concerning, with both countries deploying progressively capable systems aimed at direct competition with the U.S. in our space-based systems. Both countries have deployed ground-based counter-space capabilities, including electronic warfare systems, directed energy weapons, and anti-satellite missiles. The Commander-in-Chief's priorities are also driving a renewed focus in the Western Hemisphere. Quickly and unflinchingly, we stood up a Southern Border Task Force and deployed personnel in support of the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Northern Command. Our Source Directorate's Office of Geography has been supporting that mission by producing 7,500 new maps that now provide 100% coverage of Latin America, and they did that within 8 weeks of the initial requirement being communicated. Thanks to automation, that rate of cartographic accomplishment has never been matched. Before recent AI efficiencies were available under our previous system, it would have taken approximately 2 months per map to complete that mission. But through the map production automation tools that NGA has developed recently, we can now deliver a safe, usable, and readable map in 20 minutes. Let's put that in perspective. Under our previous map production process, to produce the 7,500 maps we created, it would have taken 7.5 years. We did it in little over 7.5 weeks. And that speedy team is right here in St. Louis. And in coordination with the U.S. Southern Command, NGA developed the Enhanced Domain Awareness Tool to monitor illegal and unregulated fishing, which circles right back to China. Of course, we also remain very involved with U.S. European Command and U.S. Special Operations Command, especially to respect to the war in Ukraine, and we're closely monitoring the situation in Gaza, which lies at the nexus of U.S. EUCOM and U.S. Central Command responsibilities. But I'd like to turn back now to space and how we tie into U.S. Space Command. Because NGA relies on the warfighting domain of space, and the warfighting domain of space relies on NGA. Many of you, I'm sure, remember that about 2.5 years ago, we changed our motto to add "from seabed to space." And it was the right thing to do, to remind people that we're not just concerned with the Earth, we're also focused on the domain of space itself. We have winning relationships with our space partners, specifically the U.S. Space Force, U.S. Space Comm, and the National Reconnaissance Office. The future of these relationships is bright. in part because of the innovation going on in our Joint Mission Management Center in our headquarters in Virginia. It's now at initial operating capability, and there are Space Force Guardians working with us right now, patriots who task satellites to ensure that we know the entire denominator. The JMMC is what collaboration looks like, together. Before any pixel or analysis is bought or any task is rendered, we make sure that as good stewards of taxpayer money, we're not paying twice. We all know that commercial GEOINT is even more essential these days as government looks to the private sector for faster innovation. Like others in the Defense Department, we've recently been using commercial solutions openings that were pioneered by the Defense Innovation Unit, CSOs for short. They're basically pre-vetted relationships that let us move very quickly if something appeals to our mission. We've employed the CSO Project Egger for maritime domain awareness in the U.S. Indo-PACOM area, and it's afforded us much better speed than we've had in the past. We've also been successfully incorporating bailments along the way. Bailments are no-cost agreements that enable NGA to test, evaluate, and analyze a product, analytics service, or analytics solution to determine how it performs, basically to test drive a solution for use, all before an actual requirement comes in. We've had 53 bailments since we began this process in 2018. More than a dozen of these have transitioned to a contract or CRADA. Bailment agreements can be set up in 2 weeks and are a great way for new businesses to get in the door. And last year, I announced our $200 million Luno B contract, and it's going well. 13 companies are providing commercial GEOINT data and services. I'll have more news on that later. To stay on the commercial subject, NGA leads a community-wide process to coordinate commercial GEOINT purchases across the government, and that maximizes our ability to share commercial imagery and analytics and prevent redundant acquisitions. NGA provides the services, combatant commands, interagency, first responders, warfighters, and international partners access to commercial imagery through a web-based service known as Global Enhanced GEOINT Delivery, or GEGD. With over 400,000 GEGD users, NGA delivered more than 325 million unclassified images to missions across the whole of government in 2024 alone. Here in this room, many of you are also familiar with the Joint Regional Edge Node, or JRIN for short. And the GEOINT Information Management Systems, or GIMS, we're focused on the slimmed-down version these days, so we call it Slim GIMS. Both have been developed to help us rapidly and efficiently move imagery and data to the edge in support of analysis and targeting needs in austere environments. In the Valiant Shield and Trade Winds exercises last year, we held 2 successful tests of JRIN and a test of Slim GIMS that all fulfilled the combatant command requirements to task satellites in theater with a simplified user interface. So not only did they meet the capability gap, they also reduced the time to create a collection request from 60 minutes to 5. NGA will be conducting 2 additional Slim GIMS tests this year, so stay tuned for more good news there. We also recently had some teammates travel to the Joint Multinational Readiness Center in Germany for exercise Combined Resolve, which was all about preparing a multinational brigade to support NATO deterrence initiatives. The team worked with the 10th Mountain Division, and they used Mapster, which ingests native unmanned aerial system imagery and provides unclassified data sharing and dissemination at the edge. And then there's the GEOINT AI ML Light Edge Resilient System, or GAMBLR, which creates and integrates unclassified AI detections at the edge, providing warfighters from the brigade commander down to platoon commanders with enhanced situational awareness of static and dynamic elements. Best of all, it conveys that operational picture over handheld devices that are connected to tactical radios. To better describe these innovations, Mapster is used to gather still imagery and full motion video that has been collected by sensors on UASs or unmanned aerial systems into a central repository where the data is downloaded for further exploitation. GAMBLR brings forth the ability to create new models in the field for automated imagery processing. It's hours or days rather than months to train the system on a unique model which is specific to warfighter needs. Anyway, our team exceeded everyone's expectations with rapid and successful demonstrations of the agility and adaptability of this tech into the unit's organic architecture. Mapster and GAMBLR have also gone out to the 25th Infantry Division to support U.S. Indo-PACOM, the 18th Airborne Corps' Scarlet Dragon exercise, the 1st Armored Division and the Army's National Training Center, the 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment for exercise Balikatan in the Philippines, and they'll go it again in trade winds in July in the Caribbean to help improve readiness and deterrence for U.S. Southern Command. We've also enjoyed great partnerships with academia in the last year, and I have a great example. NGA Unclassified Data Lake, or NOODLE for short, is supporting 2 major academic initiatives that focus on the next generation of GEOINT professionals. Students are using the NOODLE platform as their primary tool for GEOINT analysis to analyze imagery and to derive data-driven insights for their projects. Besides industry, academic, and government partnerships, we also have many international partnerships. There is no time to cite them all, so I'll offer one example, and that is Bahrain. Last December, we announced our ambitious Geospatial Acceleration Initiative together. It stems from the advanced technology track of the Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement that both our countries signed several years ago. So now we're collaborating to produce and share hydrographic, aeronautical, and topographic geospatial data. It's all designed to enhance safety of navigation for our forces in the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, etc. NGA remains fully engaged also in supporting humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. These missions have impacted the United States by providing collection orchestration for lead federal agencies responding to natural disasters. Specifically, NGA was responsible for wildfire mapping support to the National Interagency Fire Center that resulted in over 600 requests for mapping support covering 82 separate wildfires in 19 states to assist firefighters at the state and local level. This includes support to the wildfires that affected Los Angeles back in January of this year. During the 2024 hurricane season, NGA provided support to the responses to both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton with deployable GEOINT capabilities, co-located with federal, state, and local urban search and rescue first responders. What a year. And frankly, I've just cited the tip of this iceberg. That brings us to our second topic. At the beginning of 2023 and 2024, we had themes around which to coalesce our efforts. Those 2 years were NGA Accelerate and NGA Action. This year is different. This year, 2025, is the year of NGA AI. While we've treated AI with the care and power it deserves, we've entered into an unchained phase by implementing a whole-of-government, whole-of-agency approach to AI transformation. And we see that action paying off across the board. For instance, we apply AI and machine learning to our marquee targeting program of record, NGA Maven, and by extension, to our major system acquisition for imagery workflow, NGA Aspen. We embrace the speed and scale AI brings to our tradecraft, and so do our warfighters and readership. One of them is the 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Bragg. While the time-critical targeting cell in Operation Iraqi Freedom, or OIF for short, has long been considered as the benchmark in efficiency in U.S. military history, the team at Fort Bragg recently used NGA Maven and Maven Smart System to match and even exceed that performance. Because while the OIF targeting cell had more than 2,000 people, our team achieved that milestone with 20 members. NGA Maven is now available to all services and all combatant commands. There are 20,000 active users through more than 35 service and combatant command tools across 3 security domains. The user base has more than quadrupled since March of last year and more than doubled since January. Army leaders, specifically, are trying to leverage Maven to meet a new vision for units to make 1,000 high-quality decisions, choosing and dismissing targets on the battlefield in 1 hour. NGA Maven has decreased targeting workflow timelines by a substantial amount, with one warfighting element's targeting cell seeing intelligence operation timelines drop from hours to minutes, from sensing to target engagement during a recent exercise. Stats like that are important. We all want a report card, and it's useful to get metrics. In targeting, there's nothing more vital than being able to distinguish combatants from non-combatants and adversaries from non-adversaries. And the best way to measure what kind of a year you're having is to measure how quickly you're running inference and getting to that conclusion or prediction. We take this very seriously. And even with high-tech help, it requires humans to train the machines to ensure they're right. When we send the data that comes in from collection through these models, we run the inference in the computer vision process that yields detections. And to add to that, the latency of our models, our time lags and running inference specifically, that latency has improved 80% in the year since NGA Maven became a program of record. So we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. At NGA, we're leveraging AI to help sift through the millions of detects we get a day, and are also starting to train the best industry models on the corpus of NGA reporting. We're also leveraging in our business processes to ensure we're operating as efficiently as possible. Communications products are beginning to utilize the power that these models are harnessing. And we're getting better, and we're going to get even better over the future. As always, we want to let the computers do their thing so humans can be better at ours. I spoke last year about our GEOINT responsible and ethical AI training, or GREAT. Last August, we announced our commitment to a first-of-its-kind effort to develop community standards around our model creation. We called the pilot the Accreditation of GEOINT AI Models, or A-GAME for short. As the vanguard of distinction, NGA has the responsibility to set standards to uphold positive identification, or PID, as ensuring PID is the prerogative of the Commander-in-Chief, the Secretary of Defense, and their delegated engagement authorities. In our business, trustworthiness and reliability are essential for accurate and consistent outputs, and for minimizing the risk of catastrophic errors in high-risk environments. We accredit GEOINT AI models to enable decentralized innovation, and we will work hard to make the process swift and repeatable, not like an onerous authority-to-operate process. Since the launch of that A-game pilot, we've leveraged our legal and ethical AI standards, applied rigor to develop and establish criteria for the NGA model card, and today I can proudly announce that we've now accredited 2 GEOINT AI models. These accreditations, one used by our own NGA Maven and the other developed by an IC partner, beget an open invitation for members of the GEOINT community. As we standardize this process and train the trainers, we encourage you to seek A-game, to seek assurance that the models will operate with integrity and precision and with security compliance. I'd now like to turn our progress to machine learning and natural language processing. That's what enables the automated sifting, sorting, translating, comprehending, and sense-making of billions of words to make inferences about image and text data. For example, A2SON, Analyst-Assisted Safety of Navigation, enables faster and more accurate analytical decisions about the status of port infrastructure features. What we do is scrape unstructured data from commercial imagery, notices and messages, maritime periodicals, port websites, and our own sources. Then the A2SON auto-processes text and imagery sources to accurately identify features and events. And this has led to a 90% shorter data prep time. Related to that is the Source Maritime Automated Processing System, or SMAPS. Compared to earlier manual methods, SMAPS reduces processing timelines and broadcast preparation by about 65%. Our Maritime Safety Office now categorizes 1,100 automated messages a day with 35% fewer data entry errors and a shortened learning curve for our analysts. And before I move on, I want to get a few things on your calendars related to all of this, and you can sign up for them on Intel Link. First, on June 9th, NGA is hosting our first GEOINT AI Industry Day in NGA Washington. And then on November 20th and 21st, I invite you to the GEOINT AI Summit, also at NGA Washington. These 2 events are designed to foster the right conversations and collaborative environment that we all need to drive GEOINT AI into the future. Because while GEOINT is real, and 2025 is the year of AI, 2026 is going to take it to another level. Let's all be part of it. For my third and final topic, let's pivot to what's next, to talk about where we would engage with the broader GEOINT community. With an ever-increasing deluge of data, I ask you all to think about how you fit in, drive technology, and engage across national technical means, which of course is best in class. I want you to think about an emerging constellation called the proliferated architecture, which is where the US Space Force has been instrumental in leadership. And think about commercial collection out there. Think also about what our international partners might be able to contribute. That's the entire denominator. Those 4 entities. That's the entire denominator that ultimately leads to our good problem of deluge. But as we get additional data and we run additional inference with different types of models for different situations, even with likely improvements in latency, we're most likely going to have some challenges when it comes to compute. So computational power is very much the buzz, and it's definitely one area where industry can make a difference to us and our mission. We'll continue to exploit and store more ones and zeros than any other US government agency. With the size of constellations growing and the number of terabytes coming from space over the next 7 years, that data collection will go up precipitously. So too must our computational power in order to keep our edge in latency and accuracy. There are a few things coming soon I'd like to mention as well. If you're not familiar with the term multimodal yet, it's basically taking several layers and ensuring that a model can accurately and actually translate a computer vision solution to what might be something in text. And multimodal's impact on our readiness is going to be key. We have at least 3 multimodal tests going on right now, and they're actually demonstrating that this is going to make a difference in our speed and the completeness of positive identification. And that, in turn, will help us with analysis, particularly in targeting and warning. It will help us indirectly in our collection and our tasking. This in light of that left-hand, right-hand relationship we've discussed between analysis and informed collection orchestration. We have to be correct. This is a no-fail mission when it comes to warning and positive identification. Multimodal foundation models are already enhancing our speed and confidence. Stay tuned for more progress. Before wrapping up, I want to bring up something that I spoke about right here at the GEOINT Symposium 2 years ago. It's the idea of a reluctant RMA, a revolution in military affairs. The concept that operationally our warfighting undergoes changes, enhancements, theoretical pivots. My point 2 years ago was that we were in the midst of a reluctant iteration of that cycle, since we were largely fighting our conflicts remotely in a non-proximate way. We were doing it here rather than over there, and which is why any warrior worth their salt or on any side of the conflict historically would really want to be over there. In an academic piece, I subsequently named this RMA Drones, Codes, and Spacecraft, specifying that the reluctance isn't directed at codes and spacecraft. Witness the presence of 2 combatant commands and an entire service. The story of drones, though, and their proliferation and warfighting readiness, that's an unfinished tale. And we have only begun GEOINT AI's integration into this compelling challenge. NGA is demonstrating that AI and automation tools are not just here to help, they're here to stay. And we are proud of how we will live and breathe. And are part of how we will live and breathe as we continue to work at pace to keep our nation safe and our freedom close at hand. Before closing, just a couple of pieces of GEOINT business and to make a little news. First, LUNO-A, Task Order 3, for $13.8 million was awarded this week to URSA. The Global Oil Awareness Tracker, or GEOINT for short, will provide unclassified commercial GEOINT analytics of petroleum-based production and storage facilities. Second, yesterday, NGA awarded $25 million for high-performance computing to the University of Illinois, a member of the Taylor Geospatial Institute. This work will support NGA's strategic partnerships, advanced AI and machine learning, logistics for data production on a global scale, and integrated tipping and queuing strategies. And third, Palantir was recently awarded a $28 million contract to expand access to Maven Smart System for NGA analysts writ large, and to provide capabilities that assist with analytic modernization efforts. Okay, time to bring this back full circle. Earlier I spoke about St. Louis and its place in lunar exploration. It has long held an exceptional place in discovery and exploration. It was the launch site for Lewis and Clark and the core of discovery that mapped the western United States. And 98 years ago today, the world got smaller when Charles Lindbergh landed a custom-built, single-engine, single-seat plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, in Paris, completing the first solo transatlantic flight in the history of the world. On that historic trip, he faced icing, thunderstorms, fog, and exhaustion. At times, he flew just 10 feet above the ocean. On that flight, he carried one chart with him, one made by the U.S. Hydrographic Office, another NGA predecessor agency, that guided him to one of the greatest feats of the 20th century. The modern-day versions of aeronautical and maritime charts are produced right here in St. Louis. Besides Lindbergh and the Spirit of St. Louis, this amazing city is renowned for great music, award-winning barbecue, passionate sports fans, but recently, a lot of people are starting to add geospatial to that list. 9 years ago, NGA announced that we would build a new campus in North St. Louis. It set into motion activities by civic and academic leaders that far exceeded any of our expectations. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch ran a prophetic headline the day after the announcement that read, "NGA maps a new future." NGA and its predecessor agencies have been ingrained in this town since World War II, and it's where we plan to call home for the next century. And today, our agency is driving technology and innovating our tradecraft in ways we could only dream of, even at the dawn of this millennium. In many ways, this is the golden age of GEOINT, led by many in this room, inspired by increasing advancement in our capabilities, including the promise of artificial intelligence. Let's close this morning with Charles Lindbergh. When the Spirit of St. Louis landed in Paris in 1927, something called the Lindbergh boom came into being. By the end of that year, applications for pilot's license tripled, the number of licensed aircraft quadrupled, and by 1929, U.S. airline passengers increased by 3,000%, with dozens of companies forming to create airlines. It was a new age for aviation. Even in the face of economic and political upheavals, that boom continued and attempted to set new world records in aviation, and it didn't subside. The Lindbergh boom changed the world. It ushered in the future. Timing is everything. And there is no doubt in my mind that the timing for GEOINT AI is now. It's the key to building a secure tomorrow together.
What you've done.
Team's on fire, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? If you trust your women and men,
That's
you
right.
will never be disappointed.
That's exactly right.
Just a great laydown. Let me get one out of the way. I gave General Saltzman a moment to talk about the MOU and about collaboration. Let me kind of give you the opportunity to reflect on it in the same way, because you also had just really great comments
on
the signing.
Well, I was impressed with his comments, especially during your exchange, and I'll offer this. I felt that when General Gutlein and I were talking at the Space Symposium just over a month ago, we were a bit of a warm-up act to what just transpired today, formalizing that memorandum. And now I feel that that memorandum is a warm-up act for what's going to really happen as a result. The teamwork, the collaboration, it's been formalized now into a memo, but I cannot wait to see what that transcends into with Guardians and NGA professionals and all of the services, frankly, banding together in the interest of collaboration in GEOINT.
Yeah, totally appreciate your comments about just the acceleration. I think this moment portends. Really exciting. Glad that you did it. I also was really excited to see your comments about the JMMC. Can you talk a little bit about what that has meant and any measurable impacts, like a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what this is supposed to bring to us?
So I think that the JMMC for me represents what a manifestation of a physical space can mean in showing the tangible form of collaboration. So a memo is one thing, but to actually have people sitting together, looking each other in the eye, breathing the same air, and discussing priorities. In the collection orchestration space, priorities can get a bit emotional, and I think that having people in the same room, and in some cases we are going to expect even international partners in the same room as ourselves with the Space Force, Space Com, all of the co-coms looking at each other and having these discussions, because that denominator is getting huge. And so there are going to be some key decisions to make. But over time, my prediction is with some of the AI advancements that we have and with an increase in trust, we may find that the JMMC gets smaller because we're going to have to get faster.
I love that, and you know, as you were talking about AI, that's what I was thinking is, and it's a little bit of the conversation that I had with General Saltzman about, have we really implemented and embraced the change that really is going to be allowed by these things? And I think AI is right on the precipice. So I appreciate that comment about maybe JMMC gets smaller, because there are some things that we are going to have to decide more quickly. And neatly enough with the work that you're doing, we're going to be able to decide them more quickly. One, NGA was so early to recognize what commercial space was going to be able to do. Now I live and work in that community, and you cited it again, your excitement about what they're going to be delivered. So can you talk about just how that's going to play out and how it keeps advancing, what you think that relationship is? I love the announcements that you just made. Those are new players in your space, more expectations, but can you just kind of, I don't know, give us a kind of more qualitative picture about how you think that's going to play?
I think the future is driven by our insatiability. And so,
more of everything, right?
That's right. And in collection especially, we are always going to be insatiable. We look at a chart every single day that is machine-driven. I love it because it takes the emotion out of collection orchestration.
Right.
And there's a lot of room still for commercial coverage. And I have a saying, I just want it all. And yet, at the same time, I don't want to buy it twice, because on behalf of oversight and the American taxpayer, we have a responsibility to make sure we're good stewards. So I really like the direction that we're moving. Yes, there is more capacity for more commercial. If you were to look at that automated chart, you would see a lot of space that is not yet covered. And that's the only thing. The enemy and adversary rarely, if ever, keep me awake, but the possibility of missing something might cause me to be a bit unnerved, and I like where commercial might take us one day to even settle that level of anxiety.
So let me pull on that a little bit, because I love what you just said. Have you thought about whether there are some whole missions that, when EOCL was a gleam in their eye, in the 3 years before we got it out, none of that was on your watch. It took a long time on my watch. We kind of had the idea of not just more commercial imagery, but actually there were things that we could offload, that we could use it. Where are we on that arc in terms of not just adding to the robustness of what we have and the volume and the certainty, but are there things that you can see that are now getting so sure that your responsibilities can be affected in somebody else's hands? As an intelligence officer, that is a big damn deal for me to even imagine.
Well, I would think an immediate answer here would be safety of navigation, because the safety of navigation is effectively handled through commercial collection.
Anyway.
That's correct. So the EOCL, we need it for a lot of different things, but it becomes a bit existential, frankly, for our safety of navigation mission. So if there's ever going to be a decrease in the availability of EOCL, we're going to feel it immediately in our safety of navigation. So that's probably the most wholesale example of what you just described.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to turn to these amazing questions, and we're looking at our time, so I'll try and be brief, and you'll be tight and focused. How do you build trust by your workforce in the emerging capabilities, right?
Because
we need them.
We can't do anything without the workforce, and I'll just tell you right now that I'm so proud of them, and it shows every single day. It doesn't take a speech or anything like that. If you want to see the authentic NGA and how much we are impressed and embrace our workforce, please join us for the 8:45 Ops and Intel update. It's very flat, very fast, and we simply go over the intelligence overnight and our products, and we've been very prolific. Our analysts have identified opportunities well before they become a story, and they actually stage them with our midnight watch, our 24/7 watch, so that if it breaks in the middle of the night, as you know most things do.
Everyone does.
And that's the nature of collection as well in different time zones. Well, we've got a story to tell at 04. And I'm seeing the workforce actually embrace the availability of semi-awake in the evening so that that story can be told in a very timely and relevant way. We're so impressed with them. And so our development, I would say, in training is something, we get very good reviews of our college, the NGA college, and I don't think that it's a platitude. I honestly think that people mean it when they say they enjoy and they benefit from the training track that they get at the college. So we still invest in their readiness and their personal development.
Do you see part of your AI accreditation extending to humans, not just models?
So we did that. We did that first. We actually did that first. That was the great piece. So we just wanted to make sure people, anyone who touched that code, whether they were an analyst or a coder or somebody that just touched that code, we wanted them to understand the left-right limits of AI and also the responsibilities that come with AI. That involves some things like the laws of armed conflict. And that is on cruise control. In fact, that is now moving to a very, very good place where it's not just internal for NGA. We're getting high demand from trigger pullers, war fighters, people in the intelligence community who actually want to take that course. It's actually expanded very, very quickly.
How about old NGAers?
You can come back, okay. Absolutely.
So for all the conversation we had about, AI and mission performance, I know what you care most about are those women and men.
That's
and
right.
I have a couple questions for the audience and say, with everything going on, talk to the young professionals about what their future looks like and how they can best prepare for it. And you and I are lucky enough that we have Admiral Bob Sharp in the room too, another person who cares most about this. So
that's right.
Give a little wisdom and insight from the man who knows.
I think, no, thank you. We could talk about technology till we're blue in the face. However, I did want to double down on the importance of the human to teaching that machine. One of the resolutions that I made for 2025 as the year of AI was in developing a coach-mentor relationship between our experienced analysts and models and ultimately agents. Now we're talking about taking it to the next level where there's an agent. And I've asked our team to look at the possibility and timeline for developing everyone to have their own agent. That agent might actually be responsible for some of the more routine things that we have to get trained on. Some of our periodic training might be done by that agent. But we also have a responsibility to train the agent. And when you're talking about 10, 20, 30, and I sign MOAs or letters of appreciation for people with 40+ years of experience, we are not going to squander that level of experience and wisdom when we're training these models. And so I think that there is a huge responsibility, a privilege really, that our people get to shape that agent, that model, the way they want to, so they can be proud of that thing when they come in the next morning and it's already set the collect in motion from an event overnight. And if it could talk, and it probably will, it would tell that analyst, hey, well done, you trained me to do this, I did this overnight.
Awesome.
Somebody like that.
Hello, I'm with General Saltzman. The lights mean I can't see all your cute faces, but we know they're there, so thanks for the clapping. Just to keep going on that, because I just got a question in, and it was reminded of your great historical piece. One of the things NGA does is it has the foundational science. We certainly work in applications and imagery and deliver those things, but man, one of the real watchwords, particularly here in St. Louis, are those fundamental sciences of geodesy and physics and geomatics. Is that still a part of our future? I know for the folks that are interested in the research piece, is this someplace they should look as a home in the future?
Absolutely. We're actually, I would put it at a critical level in terms of the numbers coming out of our colleges who are people who are equipped with some of these very specific science capabilities. And you know, it's not just for the sake of science. What's nice is just the pragmatism, the practicality of the application. And I'll give you this example. There was a very respected and published, and in some case actually very, very much viewed individual who specializes in wealth. And I'm not going to mention who it is, but I went up to this individual and I said, I'm not going to tell you which agency I'm the director of, but I want to ask you a question. Which agency do you think has enabled the most wealth in the United States, and by extension maybe in the world? And the individual was floored by the question. He never thought about it. He's like, this is fascinating. I have no idea. He offered a couple of ideas. I told him he was absolutely wrong. And I said, I personally think it's NGA because of what we're talking about right now, which is the foundational science of knowing the Earth, to include its spin rate, its topography, the way that gravity changes, the way that the GPS is all focused on one datum and how that maintenance of that datum has to be correct. And you have to have an authoritative source here. For WGS-84, we establish it, we maintain it, and I would offer that we might enable the most wealth as well, not just security.
I have long used what you do in GEOINT as the best example I know of perfect government, and that is taking the taxpayers' dollars, developed remarkable capability in the interest of national security, and then turning it back around for societal gain. So I think you might be right with your assertion. We have so many places we could go. Let's talk technologies a little bit and some of the applications. How do you see GEOINT Symposium and the technologies demonstrated here supporting the DIE and layering with the other INTs, especially SIGINT? Because when you say multimodal, I also hear that definition of multimodal. Right. So how do you see that really accelerating?
I'm motivated by our workforce and GeoInters writ large in their humility to know that they would like to have another layer to provide better confidence in rendering their findings, their assessments. We would be guilty of hubris if we thought that we should just do GEOINT alone. And so it is from my heart, as a targeting professional especially, that we must go multimodal. And I love the efficiency that this symposium brings, where you can almost do that speed dating and see what those capabilities are. And we have these mechanisms, whether they're CSOs or they're bailments for some entity that wants to make a difference and has a product that could actually provide that layer of confidence that we've been missing all the while.
I have questions here in so many domains, from whether you're seeing improvements in the actual currency of the baseline, not just in the dissemination. I have questions on JREN and where that's going. I have questions on, is there any limitation to how you think you can use commercial imagery? I'm going to give you the last minute. Anything that you want to share that I was not smart enough to ask, question I wasn't clever enough to elicit, or something we forgot to talk about?
The speed round was great. I'm really, first off, appreciative that you're here and your legacy. I want to thank, again, St. Louis. I want to thank USGIF. I really want to thank the togetherness that we have in this room. In this partnership between what we offer at NGA and the GEOINT enterprise and writ large across industry, it is the secret sauce of our combat readiness and of the analytical rigor of the United States. And so I am so honored to be here. I'm honored that our NGA professionals love what they do, and I can't wait, frankly, for the next briefing. Thank you.
Gentlemen, everyone, please join me in thanking Admiral Whitworth for being here today. We could have gone on forever, and you're right, it is the intelligence of the future. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.